Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure, my sincere pleasure, to introduce to you the award-winning Dutch food photographer, the warrior for women's voices, the lover of all things art, food and pleasure. Please welcome the star of the show, Saskia De Wal.
Oh, it's amazing. Het is echt geweldig.
Welcome everybody, and this is the first episode of Art, Food and Pleasure. My name is Eva and I'm here in this first episode. It's my honor to introduce to you Saskia De Wal. And Saskia, please share with us, what's your favorite food?
My favorite food. It's fresh sea urchins and also boquerones en vinagre.
So share with me the experience. If you would taste the boccherone in acid now, what would happen in your mouth? Share the senses with us.
Well, my mouth will be filled with liquid and juices that are produced by my mouth by itself, because in the world you have a Dutch saying, the water runs in through my mouth. And that's what's happening now when I think about this dish. And well, if I'm eating sour, I am just being pulled into my senses, into my taste, and there is nothing left than me and the taste. The world is just standing still.
Nothing more than you and taste. And when is food a work of art?
For me, it's a work of art when the tastes are combined in that kind of way that it gives me a completely new experience. Then I think that the chef has made a temporary art piece.
So it's a sort of a shock to the senses.
Yes, a wake up to all the senses.
You're a famous Dutch food photographer, not just food as we see in magazines, but elevated to a whole different style with also the female body as a protagonist in your work. Um, is art, food, and pleasure something that embodies your work?
Yes, and this is the title. Art, Food and Pleasure is totally as I am, and also my work, because I make a lot of pictures of women who are eating, and because eating is my gateway to pleasure, and I sell that photos as artworks in galleries. So that's why it's the total combination that's embodying my work and me as a person in this world.
Yeah. So, dear listener, I'm a Dutch journalist. I'm a presenter. I know Saskia very well. That's why she asked me to introduce her to you. But I'm foremost a very, very big fan of Saskia's work, of Saskia's artworks. And in my home, I'm currently looking at one of her photographs. I'm looking at a gigantic licking mouth filled with delicious food, caviar, and also flecks of gold. And she's licking this food. Saskia, what is this? What's the title of this work and what does it represent?
The title is Gold Liquor, and it represents a contradiction against silence is gold, because I gained my voice back after a long time that my pleasure was taken away, and this is my bold quote, actually, of opening your mouth and just use your voice and also enjoy everything of your senses.
Well, we'll dive into this past of yours where your pleasure was taken away from you. First, when you were in art school, they used to say to you, Saskia, you can never take pictures of eating women or eating persons. It's disgusting. It doesn't work, right?
art school, they said, well, that's not done. There's a rule in photography. You should not make pictures who are eating because it's just disgusting. And I kept on going because I truly believe in pleasure of eating. And eventually, last year of in 2019, I won an international photography prize. So I kept on going where I believe in, and I believe in pleasure.
And you proved them wrong. But still, then, when you won this award, nobody really knew the story behind it. You used to say, well, maybe I just have a dirty mind. You used to joke about it, but people didn't really know the dark side behind the work. If I say dark side, is that correct, or does it make you feel uncomfortable?
No, I think well, it is a kind of dark side, and there is a lot of darkness in my work, and also in my older works with the seven deadly sins. There is something darkish in my work, and but it was I come from a dark past.
Yeah. So this is about taking back ownership of art, food, and pleasure, because as we said, it was taken away from you. Saskia, you have a Me Too past. Can you share something about that?
When I was 11, I was abused by a group of older boys. And when I was 19, I was drugged, abducted, and raped. And after that, things occur. There were a lot of people who said I was not allowed to talk about it anymore. And then I kept it in myself for about 20 years or something. And that my body just blocked everything, that trauma. And for 4 years ago, I remembered it again, and then I got into a process of trauma recovery. And yeah, I can talk about this now, and also with the training I had with you for the last year in the whole 2020, where we worked for a stage moment to speak out loud what happened to me. So I broke the silence. And that's also the representation of that artwork we just spoke about, to break the silence.
Breaking the silence. How do you
Yeah.
feel? How do you feel now that you've broken the silence?
I feel very, very empowered. And I feel also very liberated because now I can use my voice, and I notice on every part in my life, I feel more powerful and more certain that that my voice is necessary for the world. When I stood on the stage in November, I was very nervous, of course, because 150 people are not are an enormous amount of people. But I got really nice feedback from a lot of women who recognized themselves in the story, and I inspired them to go on with their own trauma healing and their own process. And that was my whole mission, to gain that motivation for other people.
What is? Can you give an example of a comment you received, or something somebody said upon hearing your story?
Well, there was a woman who came to the gallery, and she looked at my exhibition, Oral Fixation, that the artwork we just spoke about is one of the artworks that's in there. And I told her the story, and she told me her story, and she was raped too. And she asked me if my children know what's happened to me, and I was very open about it, and also with my kids, not in detail, of course, but I told them in the big lines, no is no and yes is yes. And it's really important that you listen to when somebody else says no, it's just no. And she said, well, my kids don't even know what's happened to me. And now I've heard your story. I feel like I have to tell them. And when she came home, she told her daughter and her son, they are now 21 or something, and she told them. And that's an enormous big step in her own process. I think she was convinced she was over it, and was stronger because of that, because she's a really really strong woman. And but still, this was maybe the last step she needed in her own process. And for me it was very motivating to keep on going, because it feels very heavy to keep on talking about this, but I think it's really necessary to get the bigger changes happening now, because it's still happening and it's still normal, and it's well, that's where the feminist in me comes up.
When the thing is, you talk about the darkness and also the heaviness, of course, when you've lived through something like this. But on the other hand, your work is so colorful, it's so bright, it's so energizing. Uh, can you explain what is it that makes it so powerful?
I think, well, in our school, my one of my teachers told me, well, Saskia, you were talking about sensual food and sensuality, but actually you're making kind of hard porn or something. And I was very offended actually by that when he said that, because that's not the thing I want to communicate in my work. But um, now I feel that my work is very colorful. It's because I want to celebrate the pleasure. I really want to celebrate the joys you can have with your body, and the joys you can have by using all your senses, and especially with the mouth, because, well, maybe I have an oral fixation. Yeah, what food and eating is really my gateway to pleasure, and sometimes I investigated my pleasures a lot, and sometimes I experience like a synesthetic experience where you can where the senses are getting mixed up. That you can see numbers, and you can hear some smells, and it's kind of neurological problem, but I don't think it's a problem. But I think I can feel taste, and that's why it comes so intensely when I eat, when I have taste in my mouth. And yeah, I really love food. Yeah, then it's also very sensual, but especially alive, and just pumping and activating. And
Because I have heard that with music, Saskia, that you can that some people hear music and they see colors, for example.
yeah, and I have it too with music, because I went a lot to techno parties in the last 10 years. And I also went by myself, and I just had one Bacardi Cola. And but when I had, in every Bacardi Cola there is a slice of lemon, and I waited for biting the slice of lemon when the beat dropped down. So when the beat came in, I would bite my lemon, and there was an amazing experience. It's a very special experience.
Wow. So what happened when you tasted the lemon?
Well, and then the music kicks in, the very hard basses, and then you just, well, I will go wild and what dancing, and just, well, I just, yeah, well, that's really, how can I explain it in words? It's so powerful and energizing, and instant happiness. I mean, I don't need ecstasy. I just have taste and music and my senses, and I'm totally happy.
Wonderful. This slice of high on lemon, not high on life.
Yeah.
So now you decided before you started on this journey, also more speaking out and telling other people what's your story and how your art came about. Now you've decided to share all parts of you in this podcast. What is the purpose of this podcast, Art, Food, and Pleasure?
In the first place, when I thought about, I want to do something with my new reclaimed voice, and I'm very happy that I have my voice now and I can use it. And I'm singing in my bathtub, and I am singing for my kids when they go to bed. And I was like, I can do stuff with my voice. And so what can I do with my voice? I was thinking about spoken word, and I was like, I need to learn things. And but but I listen a lot to podcasts. I was like, why don't I start a podcast? I can share everything I know about art and food photography, but also I can learn about food and how does chefs think about food? Do they think they are artists too? And but also, what is the role of food? Because in the back in the days there was all kinds of food stills, and now I don't know why. I'm very curious what what the role of food is. And when I started to think about starting a podcast, then everything came up. What do I like to talk about? And I asked my husband, well, you are always talking about food. Okay, let me talk about food then. And then I'm always making art over food. And well, and I'm very curious how does it work in the art galleries? Are there people who are really collecting food art, and are there food museums, and how do they look at food, and what how does everything work? And also with chefs, but all over the world, because food is something so big, and everybody is interested in food, because well, we if we don't eat, we die. So
Yeah. And food is also comforting. Is that something you maybe not on a conscious level, but is it also something that's comforting for you?
yes, it's absolutely comforting, but it's not comforting in a, yeah, you can also have it in a problematic way when you're all emotional eating. That's not what I have, because I'm very conscious what's happening to me and how I feel. And when I take in something, if I eat something, if I start eating when I'm unhappy, I know I am running away from what I'm feeling. So I'm very conscious of what I am doing when, because I'm not eating because I want to swallow away problems or something. I'm very conscious about that.
So what is eating for you?
Eating is a real pleasure. Is a real pleasure. I had a lot of different relationships with food when I gave birth to my first child, my daughter, in 2010. I weigh 130 kilos, and I did a lot of crash diets. They were very unhealthy diets, not only for my body but also for my mind. And then when I quitted those diets and those extreme restrictions, I started to learn what is good food and what does my body need. And together with really enjoying food, I lost weight. I lost 60 kilos in 1.5 years. And so I really respect food too. And I love food. I really love food. And I love eating.
That's interesting because you not only liberate women in the Me Too stories, but loads of women have complicated relationship with food. Not a lot of women maybe can say, "Oh, I love food," or in a guilt-free way. Do you agree?
Yes, I totally agree. And what that was also what my first point was when I wanted to be a food photographer in 2010. Also, that food is something very sensual, but also that food is such a sensual activity. And if you can enjoy food in with all your senses and everything you have, and being really in that moment, you can, if you can enjoy food in that way, you can enjoy life in that way. And when you enjoy life in that kind of way, well, you cannot other be than happy. And I really want to see everybody happy.
Does art have a role in that as well? Art makes you think. Art makes you smile. Art makes you think others. It brings up new thoughts. At least that's in my case. It just, yeah, how do you say that? Just opens your mind.
Yes, I really believe that art is a way to change the way you're thinking about something. And what I'm gaining in my work is that if people are looking at my work, they, well, in the first way you can see, well, it's way too bold and it's way too colorful, and there's nothing hidden. There are no hidden messages, so I'm not looking anymore. But that's not the case. If you're looking more and longer to my work, you can see that there is some liberation. And then I really want the viewer to ask themselves, how liberated am I? Am I able to enjoy food or champagne or whatever is on the picture? Can I enjoy in that kind of way? And I think that's a very interesting question. And if you cannot enjoy it, or you feel repulsive about it or something, or why is it? Because where's the resistance? There is the most interesting part. And if you are very good in your self-reflection, then you can get a lot of interesting insights when you're looking to my work. But I also think that art should not be always very happy or something. Art does not have to be pretty. Um, I If art touches you in some kind of way, even if you start crying. I was looking at in Sotheby's 2 years ago. I looked at an artwork from Mark Rothko, and I heard the stories, of course, that everybody was crying in front of his work, and I was just, okay, I will test it, and I sat there and I looked to his work, and I just stared into it, and I stared into the darkest reds and purples, and I could really feel the painting, and it was really heavy, and I felt really touched and emotional too. And I was like, damn, this is really good. This is really good work. And it was sold for $350,000 or something. I don't know. It was extremely prices, but art does not have to be pretty and does not have to be beautiful, but it has to touch you in some kind of way. And then I think it's good art. It has to touch me in some kind of way, positive or negative, but it has to change your emotions.
Yeah, I remember seeing For the Love of God, the work of Damian Herst. It was the skull studded with diamonds, and it was on display in the Rijksmuseum. I think it's almost, I don't know, 10 years ago, and this was also work that was like very controversial, and people would say it's so commercial. And I went with the same skeptical attitude, and you had to wait in line, and then one by one you were admitted, and then you went in. It was a velvet clad room with velvet curtains, so all the light was absorbed, and then there were like spotlights on the skull, and it was such a magical experience. The light of the diamonds was so blinding and mesmerizing. It looked like, yeah, it felt like you were hallucinating or something. There was also a physical experience almost, yeah. And I was thinking about food, about the experience, what you always talk about. You have, as I said, together with your husband Menno, a famous restaurant in Haarlem, Olivijn. It's a Michelin star restaurant. And the fun thing is that you are not strict at all, and it's not elite at all. You always say to me that I have to lick my plate.
Yes, that's it. We are the only restaurant you can do that. But I organize No Rules dinners upstairs in my gallery, because upstairs there's a gallery, and there I organize No Rules dinners, and there you can have just a Michelin dinner experience together with an artwork and specially entertainment. And then you can eat without cutlery, and then you can just lick your plates and eat with your hands, and it's a weird experience, but so liberating. And but there are a lot of people who are afraid to do that, because they were um uh, well, it was not allowed when they would from their mothers. I mean, it was prohibited at the dinner table. So there are a lot of people, even friends of mine, who are very, they don't dare to lick their plates, because you have to stick out your tongue, and when you stick out your tongue, it's very the Maoris, they have a dance where you stick out your tongue, you feel very powerful. And I think that there is something, no, not all people dare to stick out their tongue and lick their plates. So that's also I find that very interesting.
The haka.
And the haka, yeah, really powerful, really powerful.
Who would be your ultimate guest in the podcast?
My ultimate guest. The curator from Lam Museum.
That's the food art museum, right?
Yeah, the Food Art Museum here in the Netherlands. Yes, I really would like to interview her. And David Chang, he's from Momofuku in New York.
Wow.
And a lot of big chefs. The chef from Alinea, he is really inspired by art, and Massimo Bottura, because he's very inspired by art too. And I'm really interested in the chefs who are inspired by art and who can also transform their art inspiration into new dishes and new tastes, and that for me is very magical. And also Ferran Adria, he is the most innovating chef, from El Bulli. He is an artist, and I really would love to talk to him too.
And the other way around, what artist would you like to have in your podcast?
Her name is Maisie Cousin, and I saw her work for the first time at Unseen in Amsterdam. And her work is kind of on the border of disgusting or not, but it's very colorful and very pinkish and very oily and skinny, and well, not skinny, but you see a lot of skin and a lot of oil and a lot of flowers. And I really would like to talk to her, because I would like to know what her movements are, of why she's moved by making that kind of art. And also Marlene Dumas, and because she made her art from her Me Too experience too. I kind of have some offended by the word Me Too, because Me Too is more than just a slap on the ass, And but Marlene Dumas, because she made very bold and dark art too, and I'm very inspired by that kind of artists, and especially the female artists who are driven by experience in their life, who are so intense and so traumatic. And when they can make from the trauma, they can make art. I really believe that's magical art that has some real tension in it.
Saskia, congratulations on this fabulous new podcast, Art, Food and Pleasure. I can't wait to hear your stories, the stories of your guests. Also, sort of take us in behind the scenes in the food, in art, in pleasure. I can't wait to hear it. So, if people are curious to know more about you and about your restaurant, your art, where should they look?
Everything will be on the website artfoodandpleasure.com. There you'll find everything you need about me and the restaurant and my guests. And yes.
So hurry to artfoodandpleasure.com. Wonderful that you've listened now, and please join us for the next episodes. Please join Saskia. And Saskia, for now, I wish you all the best, and enjoy this this journey of pleasure, of art, and of food, of this delicious journey ahead.
Yes, thank you so much for interviewing me. That helps me a lot.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.